Well, thank you, Greg, for jumping on here. Greg, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Um, Professionally, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yep. Well, I've been
you can do
working.
whatever you want.
I currently fill the role of culinary director here at All American Stores. We have 12 units of convenience stores in our system, eight of which serve some format of hot food. Some of them are more robust than others. Some of them are basically just pizza and hot sandwiches. Um, Swinging that gamut there. My background in food, I've spent 25 years in restaurants. I believe if you combine all eight of my All American kitchens into one, I still have worked in over 10 different restaurant kitchens
Wow.
throughout my career. So I've done casual dining mostly for corporate restaurants, being O'Charlie's, Lone Star Steakhouse, Cheddar's Scratch Kitchen. I've done independent restaurants. I've done even a couple franchise restaurants too, where we're prescribing to a brand, but individualized owners. Um, I've always been into food. My brother is a classically trained chef. My dad was a certified culinary educator. He taught at Ivy Tech here in Fort Wayne for quite a few years as adjunct faculty, and then later in his career, he was made the dean of the culinary school at Ivy Tech here in Fort Wayne, which was pretty nationally renowned up there with names like CIA, Johnson Wales,
Mm.
Le Cordon Bleu here in the States. So in that same realm of programs. But yeah, for the last year and a
Uh,
half, I've been very busy basically creating a brand, unifying recipes, um, putting in standards of operation and making sure that all the stores are doing the same thing so we can have consistency throughout our stores.
I really appreciate that, Greg. And that actually sets up one of the things that I wanted to ask you today, which is you had a really interesting point. So you've got this really rich restaurant background, but you threw something out that I don't know if you want to call it a hot take or whatever, but you mentioned something in a conversation we were having that um, sometimes when you come into the convenience business and I'm paraphrasing, so correct me if I don't get this exactly right. When you come into the convenience business and you're building a food service program, sometimes people make the mistake of approaching it like it is more of that restaurant style background versus a convenience. Can you expand on that a little bit? Because it's a very interesting point that you made.
Yeah, for years and years in the restaurant business, we staffed it with certain people. We looked for experience as we do in any job, any professional level job, and I treated my restaurants as professional level jobs. You want a server that knows how to wait tables, that knows how to put themselves out there, knows how to suggestive sell, and basically can remember things in the long term. You want your line cooks to be skilled. Um, you want if you're a red meat concept steakhouse, for instance, you want your broiler cook to be that's your heart and soul. Um, in the C stores, I don't have that. So you basically you, you have to put into a language like standards, policies, procedures, recipes that are, for the lack of a better word, dumbed down. You can't use the vernacular of a restaurant. Gas station employees don't know what an all day is. They don't know what fire means. They don't know what any of those hot words we use on a restaurant line. Um, so you kind of have to not. They're not stupid people. They just don't have the experience. They don't have the base knowledge that a restaurant person would. So you have to approach it a different direction. Um,
Mm.
it was a hard lesson that I learned, and it happened all in one day through one situation. that I realized that I don't have restaurant people working for me. So
Mm,
it it was an eye-opening conversation. It was an uncomfortable conversation because it's something I had never thought about. But I believe I approached my job and my job duties from a different perspective because of it, and I've gotten a lot more reception, um, a lot more activity and buy-in from the staffs in our stores because that I talk to them in a language they'll understand.
mm. That's such an interesting point when you brought that up. Well, and and even like you said, it's not it's often a lack of either experience or um not always the do you have the server also having to potentially run out of the restaurant and clean up a gas spill or the person cooking breakfast. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty unique to the convenience
Yes,
store.
absolutely. The converse
Yeah.
is also correct. Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't ask a line cook to go scrub a bathroom.
that's right. Um, and so, you mentioned a little bit of that simplification or dumbing it down. It's all the same thing, making it simple and consistent. Tell me a little bit more about that. What are some of the keys to like a solid food operation?
In a C store, you have to your recipes have to be standardized, and with that standardization, you have to use tools because a seasoned line cook in a restaurant is going to know what 2 ounces feels like in their hand. Gas station employees don't. They want to be able to know what that is, but they don't. Do you need measuring utensils, and everything needs to be regimented. In our stores, we've implemented, especially with our pizza program, everything is portioned, everything is measured, whether by count or by volume. All of our stores, they don't have the space to put a big scale on their counters. So we've converted everything into volume. So we use a 1 and a
Mm,
2 ounce spoodle, and that's how they make their pizzas. Um, and everything is in some sort of volume measurement, whether it's a spoodle or a disher or an ice cream scoop that has a standard measure, ladles that. Um, it's expensive to do it that way because running to Walmart and buying a soup ladle off the shelf where there's no standardized measurement of it, yeah,
mm,
that's going to cost you $2-3 when a 8 ounce ladle from a food service supplier is going to be a little bit more than that.
mm.
But you need that standardization because it's going to save you that $10 that you spent on that one item more. It's going to save you your ROI on that is really quick.
Yeah, a one-time $2 to $3 purchase or savings versus
Mhm.
you know, scooping that same amount consistently hundreds of times over weeks and months. Um, so I suppose along with that, um, one of the other things I wanted to ask you was, you've got these different formats and everybody, well, most of the people I talk to who are um, thinking about food service or they're deep into food service, we see these different formats. And we had talked briefly the other day about the different types of formats that people have. And so like there's like what do you see as managing the difference between like you've got a hot box and it's maybe more simple versus that no, you're a restaurant and you sell gas. How do you manage those two?
Manage the difference between those two
Yeah, manage the difference.
with great difficulty.
Mm,
It's different. One of our 8 stores, they are one of those restaurants that sells gas. Um, they uh, they do daily specials every day. Mondays are pasta days, Tuesdays are taco days, Wednesdays are wing days. Um, Fridays are fish days. Thursday kind of varies a little bit. But then you've got your smaller stores that are just doing pizza and hot sandwiches. But the same pieces we sell in the restaurant that sells gas as we do in the gas station that sells food, it's the same recipe. because it's still under the same brand. It's still an all-American store. So when customers walk in to our Hoagland location, they expect the same pizza that they get at our Ossian location or up at Leato or over at County Line. It's still the same pizza made with the exact same ingredients, made hopefully the exact same way. So that consistency has to be there, for one, for the customer experience and the flavor profile of the product, and two, so you can make sure the costs are correct, make sure that the profitability of that product is still there, and you eliminate as much waste as you possibly can, at least in an execution standpoint. And on the same note, you also have to take shrink into account, because the smaller stores are going to sell less food. So it's always a less more often thing where they do. Our busy stores, they'll put out 10 pizzas at once and sell them all in a half an hour. Our smaller stores that don't have the same sales volume, it's going to take them 3 hours to sell that same amount of pizza. So they put out less. They're going to put out 3 at a time rather than 10 at a time. So you have to adjust with what you need to do, with what clientele is coming into your, and how big your economic footprint of the store is. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think I've got two more questions for you, Greg. So I think I'll leave with a recommendation, but before we get to that one, what worries you the most when you're introducing a new food service program and to let's say an existing store? You've got one and you're trying to roll out something new.
What worries me the most is, did I give my people, my staff, all the information they need? There's always going to be questions. Well, what do you think? What is this? What is that? There's always going to be those questions. But did I give them everything they needed to get it started, basically on their own? I'm always going to be there for support. I'm always going to be there to help. But even in the restaurants, we were given a rollout manual of a promo, and we went to maybe an afternoon of training, and that was it. We were supposed to launch it the next Monday, or whatever the case might have been. Again, going back to, I don't have restaurant people, I have gas station employees. It takes a little bit more hands-on than that. So I try to answer all the big questions first out, and then during those training sessions, we field all of the small questions. And usually that involves me going around to every site and doing those, because we don't have a central location where everyone can gather and
Mm.
learn a new concept, a new food service program all at once. So it's staged, in other words. And then after the rollout, it's maintaining those standards, maintaining that consistency with products. So again, their customers are getting the same product, and no matter what site they're visiting.
Mm.
And that requires follow up and coaching and just constant feedback.
So, Greg, I think everything you've just said applies to a new manager, a longtime manager, even somebody who's been running the food for a while, even introducing a new concept. Let's say I'm a new manager and I'm introducing a brand new program, and maybe I'm moving to a hot box, to something that's a little more flexible or requires a little more prep. What would you recommend to me, in addition to everything you just talked about? What would you tell me if I said, "Hey, Greg, you got any advice? You got any recommendations for me before I dive headfirst into this thing?"
The first one is, make sure you know what you're getting into. Food service is expensive. It's hot, it's sharp, it's freezing cold, and it's busy always. Make sure you know what you're doing. If you're starting a pizza program, make sure you got the ovens in place. Make sure you've got the make tables in place and all the pans you need. Ingredients will come. Ingredients aren't really the concern. You want to make sure you have the tools to make it happen. I mean, broadliners will sell you whatever you need. They don't have a problem with that. It's making sure you have the ovens, the proper ovens, pans, and so forth. Second thing is make sure that the community that you're doing this program in has a need for it. I mean, if you're going into a corner with three other gas stations, you're doing two other types of food, then maybe do something different, or do what they're doing, but do it better. One of the restaurant concepts I did work for, they're no longer in existence because another concept came in with almost a similar concept and did it better. So that I mean, market intrusion can be a little very fickle, but it's a reality of our lives. So, um, and then understanding that your employees are still going to be gas station employees. You got to, again, like I say, not necessarily not treat them like they're stupid, but you're gonna have to dumb it down and make it as easy for them to execute as possible. It is still a convenience store concept. It's not a restaurant. These customers that come in here, they want it ready when they walk in the door. And if it's not ready, then they don't want to wait 20 minutes for you to figure out how to do it. It's got to be automatic almost. So are we a hot and ready place or are we a made to order place? Those type of things. We have both concepts in my company. Most of it is completely hot and ready to go. We do have a couple of different. We have a smash burger program at a couple of our stores that is a made to order, but those also don't have a 5 minute cook time at the very most. So, yeah, know what you're getting into. Um, be ready with all the tools you need, and don't overestimate your staff, for lack of a better term.
Mhm. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Greg, thank you so much. I really appreciate you jumping on here and sharing your words of wisdom with us. So, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.